Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Miha and welcome to the channel. This is the roundup of AI news from April. These are things that stood out to me. You'll find links to all of the sources, articles, YouTube videos in the description down below. I'll talk about three things today. Number one, we'll touch on AI security developments. Two, we'll talk about use cases and model deployment. And then three, we'll briefly give you an update of the governance and policy landscape. There's been some interesting developments on the AI security side. This month, we saw a GitHub repository being compromised. Now, this is a repository of software. A lot of developers, including big companies, use these repositories to help build out their software. There was a supply chain-like attack where one of these pieces of software on the chain was compromised by a malicious actor. And since other pieces of software, including AI tools like Agentic AI tools, used these pieces of code, that malicious code was then pulled into some of these Agentic AI tools. This led to a number of infections and quite a lot of concern in the Agentic AI space, since the repository was directly used in some Agentic AI tools. We also saw a false positive. LM Studio, which I've covered on this channel twice now, was flagged as malicious. However, that turned out to be a false positive. So this is another indication of just how quickly these tools are developing and that antivirus software is in some cases struggling to keep up. And while LM Studio is safe to use, it is definitely worth being cautious with any software. Keep in mind that these repositories are not just used by small developers. GitHub repositories are used by big companies as well. Anthropic has also shown that Claude is becoming much better at analyzing code, not just writing code, and that's allowing them to use these tools to identify vulnerabilities that we didn't know about. So these tools are also being used to make our software safer. However, in a talk published last month, and you can find it linked below, Anthropic also highlighted that these type of tools have dual use, and they can be used to exploit writing code. Same tools now have offensive and defensive capabilities. What was alarming to me from this talk was just how low the barrier has become for writing malicious code. In other words, you no longer need a lot of expertise to write code that exploits vulnerabilities. And all of this matters because now we're not just using AI to answer questions for us, we're using AI to perform tasks. By giving AI access to our files, our tools, and our login credentials, an error or malicious use of AI can have really significant consequences. Second topic I want to bring up is use and deployment of AI. We've seen some interesting studies that are now showing that the most effective AI users are not those who simply offload all their tasks to AI, but they iterate with AI. In other words, they treat AI as a collaborator, as a co-worker, a tool they can use to fine-tune their ideas rather than simply offloading decision-making capability. This is useful information for AI developers because it tells us how to develop and market their products. We see OpenAI and Anthropic move towards large launches, where they'll launch a new model that then has several different types. For example, ChatGPT recently launched 5.4 Plus, Mini, and Nano, and these are all different models that do different things. Some are better with general purpose prompting, others in coding, others are small and efficient and are cheaper to run and might be better for agentic AI use. Parallel here could be a car company designing one car and have one model with a large engine that can do a bit of everything, another with a diesel engine with more torque that's maybe better at towing, and then a third model with a smaller, more compact engine that is more efficient and cheaper to operate. On the other hand, we see Google and Microsoft taking a somewhat different approach. Instead of massive launches of new models, they're rather focusing on embedding their tools into their ecosystems. These two companies have an advantage because they have tools that many of us use. And so they're trying to embed these tools into their own ecosystem. For example, last month, Google has further integrated Gemini into tools like Google Docs, Google Sheets, and even Google Maps, while Microsoft is moving forward integrating their Copilot tools into the Microsoft Office suite. And this is not just about development of the tools. I think it's also a signal that these companies are taking a somewhat different route to monetizing these tools. And finally, not all AI model development is linear. Meta, for example, delayed the release of their latest model, Avocado, because they were concerned about performance. And this is an indication that even with billions of dollars, developing these frontier models is difficult, expensive, and will have setbacks. On the policy side, there's also been a number of developments. In the United States, we see continued evolution of chip export requirements and laws, and the White House is still pushing for a national AI policy. In Europe, the AI Act is being implemented this year, although it is undergoing revisions as the technology changes. We also see new regulations in India, which is trying to set itself up as a leader by encouraging investment, and regulations in China, which are quite strict at how AI is used. However, the big countries aren't the only ones that are looking at AI use. We are seeing early legislation from South America, Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific. What we do see right now is that this space is very fragmented. There is no global standard, although there are organizations that are trying to encourage collaboration across borders to come up with some kind of international guidelines, at least, that countries could follow. Of course, the big question is, what will all this look like 10 years from now? Is the key focus here on security? Is it efficiency and productivity? Is it governance and safety? We simply don't know. And 10 years from now, we may realize that the hardest part was not developing and building this technology, but deciding what success actually looks like. In the end, the story may not be only about who built the most AI or who built it the quickest, but also about who used it and governed it most effectively. And that concludes the roundup for March. You can find links of all these stories in the video description below. And let me know what you think about AI success. How do you think we will, or how do you think we should define it 10 years from now? What should we focus on? Is it national security, economic efficiency, productivity, AI safety, something else, or is it a combination of all of these? Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you enjoy the roundup, and I'll see you next time.